All right. Well, let's talk about the one race that you weren't in, but you probably have a good insight of what went down. Samuel Tefera of Ethiopia, kind of surprised us all, beat Jakob Ingebrigtsen, passed him in that final 50 meters. Kipsang gets third. Oliver Hoare, one of the US based training athletes, gets fifth. What was your reaction when you were watching this race, and kind of break down how you thought it played out? And were you surprised that Jakob wasn't able to hold off Tefera?
So when I watched it, I was, obviously the camera was pretty fixed on Ingebrigtsen at the on the start line. I thought he looked really nervous, and I was like, okay, like he's got a lot of weight on his shoulders right now, but he's dealt with that his whole life. But he's coming in as the champ, and you don't want to lose after you've become the Olympic champion. So I thought he was in good shape. He obviously ran that world record, but the way he ran it, which is reasonably similar to the Olympics where he just wanted it fast. And so he pushed it to make it fast early. But the thing is with Tefera is he's such an odd guy where he is, in my opinion, pretty bad at rounds. Like if the race is slower and he has to kick, like he's kind of known to not get through rounds all that well. And then, but you stick him on a rail, against Kachelchka last year, a couple of years ago, and then he gets a world record, or you stick him on the rail against an Ingebrigtsen, where the pace is pretty fast. He's one of the best in the world at that. Like putting him in a time trial, and he'll run incredibly fast. And so when I saw him having to just sit there and knowing that he wouldn't have to kick all that crazy the last 200, it's not going to be a 24, 25, 26 second last lap. I was like, he's got a good shot, but I don't know if that world record took too much out of Ingebrigtsen, but yeah, he just didn't look quite as poppy as he has in the past. I haven't watched any of the interviews afterwards if he's said something went wrong, but yeah, I think it's interesting to see that he's got beaten, and that's going to probably make him quite angry come outdoors.
Yeah, he was quoted saying, "If I knew that I was completely shit tonight, I would have, of course, done a lot of things different, but I didn't have any factors telling me that before this race." So he basically
Wow.
didn't know he wasn't going to be able to handle that final 50-meter surge from
So
Tefera.
he wasn't too happy then, eh?
So do you think that if he would have found a way to let the pace go out in like 2 minutes through the opening 800, that he would have came victor based on the way you say Tefera doesn't really like these slower races?
He just because he had to take the whole thing, and he was always worried about what's going on behind him as well. Like all of that just kind of amalgamated into him just doing too much of the work and worrying too much about what was going on, and that just ended up being a bit of a disaster for him, I think.
What would you have done if you were in this race and you see the way it goes out in the first 400 meters? What would have been your game plan once you got through halfway, where you would put yourself in position? Would you have keyed off a certain athlete?
I think just sitting on Tefera would have been a smart move. Like Hoare and Gurley as well, they were having a tough time just getting there because they were out so hard. But if you work hard that first kind of, 600 meters and just trying to get yourself in position, you just got to be close enough because not being close enough is going to be your biggest problem.
Do you take anything? So obviously, a lot of these guys you're going to see, three, what, how many months away are we from World Outdoors? 4 months, 5 months? I'm bad with math. But do
Yeah, something
you
like that.
take any? Yeah, do you take anything away from this race, or do you think this is kind of anyone? It's really is going to have no factor on what's going to go down in Eugene. But like, do you look at this as being like, hey, Jakob is beatable, or well, I gotta watch out for Tefera in July? Like, what do you kind of take away from this?
I would just say that he is beatable. He's always been beatable, but I think him knowing that he's been beaten is going to piss him off, and I think will make him a bit more loose come outdoors and not worry as much about getting beaten. So what I learned from it is just we can see another way of how he's attacking a race with a bunch of fast guys, and being able to get through that round. But he's never had really that bad a race ever, and I don't think he had a bad race. He just got beaten out by the old world record holders. So you can't say much about that, but it's
it's a difficult one to analyze right now, just because you're putting up a player who's just a bit more of a question mark as an athlete. Kind of race.
We're losing your connection a bit, Josh. If you could maybe if you go back to where you were sitting before, connection.
Yeah, I was just getting a charger.
Oh, okay, there you go. All right. So you're saying basically, now Jakob's going to be pissed the rest of the season, and he might take it out on.
He's going to be real pissed.
The rest of the world. That's pretty cool. So, was there anything about that race in general that surprised you? Obviously, people thought Jakob would win. Were you surprised with anything else behind those top two? Hoare finishing fifth. Gorley, your fellow countryman, finished sixth. Was there any other takeaways you had or surprises?
I think I don't think that's. I thought Hoare would do better, but again, you're looking at a field where Kipsang is incredibly. The way he ran the Olympic final last year, I think he ran the 90% of it in lane 2, and still ended up being a very close fourth. And so I think he's a phenomenal athlete that hasn't quite done what he can do yet. But I think Horace, he came in with a lot of confidence, but it just got strung out early, and he never really got himself back into a position where he could kind of attack for a medal. But Gurley, that's a great showing from Neil. To be honest, he's put together a great performance. He's had some frustrating moments for the last couple of years with Doha final not going as well as he wanted to, and then he had a couple of injury problems and some illness problems. So him stringing together those two performances after British Championships, I think is very inspiring to see, and it's good for British athletics as well. But I think he's good enough to get up towards those medals. But today, again, it was a similar. Him and Hoare ran very similarly, where it was so fast at the start that it was difficult to get back up there because they were taking a bit of a breather in the middle to maybe try and have another go at it at the end. But it just wasn't quite enough.
Does it feel good once again to see Great Britain finishing higher than any American?
Well, I mean, I didn't say it, you did. So, I think when you're going to send, second and what was it, fourth place from US champs, it's a bit of a shame. Obviously my teammate Henry didn't have the standard, so he wasn't able to go. But I think this is Prakel's first major championships. So again, making the finals always great, and that's great experience for another American to make another major championships and be battling. So if he battles for making the outdoor team, he has that little bit of experience coming forward and knowing what his body's like coming through those rounds. But yeah, 2 rounds is very different to 3 as well. So yeah, it's a whole different ball game indoors.